There we go. I have to
Welcome to
check.
Driving Catalyst.
Yes.
Got Peter, Chris, trying to orchestrate and drive Catalyst forward, get everybody together. We're going to talk about the passionate topics in here and get together and, build this ecosystem from the ground up. And thank you for joining, Logan, and chatting early, and welcome, Ken. And I'd love to talk about your Pollute smart contracts and integrations with that. Have you any ideas with any like D apps or ideas of implementing that in there?
Yeah. So pretty much we're making our like initial proof of concept beta product is just a simple escrow smart contract where you don't have to know how to code at all. You just fill out a simple online form. And then the deployment of the contract and the payment of the contract is executed by just user interaction. So people clicking, yes, this is what I want, or no, I don't want that. So that's kind of our beta product.
Okay.
Yeah, I hate to just talk about my project. I know we're here to talk about Driving Catalyst, and I'm just kind of, I love talking about what I'm doing, but I don't want to take away.
No, that's a big piece of something that everybody wants right now. I see a lot of proposals in there, a lot of people asking for it, and in certain pieces of this, there's just not enough money. And if you have a working model, most likely somebody else right over there has the other piece that you need, or the token, or the artist, or the platform. So you have like the one piece that most people scratch their head about. And everybody's been asking for that same exact thing. And it's not that it hasn't been out, but it's not easy. It's not easy for anybody to click and make, like you're saying. So I do want to welcome Randall. If you want to say hello, and maybe, are you driving Catalyst as well?
I don't know the answer to that. I mean, that's a decentralized organization, right?
Chris is on the DApps and integrations talent challenge team, so he has a eagle eye view of what's going on in terms of this infrastructure that's coming out on Cardano. So when we're talking Driving Catalyst, it's talking to people like all of you guys and giving people stage as well. Yeah.
I'll just give a quick intro. I'm a software developer for many years, and I've been here in the Catalyst process over close to a year now. So I've gotten to experience Fund, the tail end of Fund 3, and then the Fund 4 and 5. Fun, the circus that was. And of course, getting to see all the challenges that we've had in the CA process through the year. And I actually confess that I missed the intro that was in the main channel about this room, but the headline grabbed me, and I saw a name that I recognized, Chris. So I jumped on in. So I would like to hear and see if something comes up for me.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, Chris, tell us what Driving Catalyst means to you.
So as Driving Tip Daily, as my, let's say, backdoor into the Catalyst ecosystem, I've been pumping Cardano in various ways, not even in a pump fashion, but building the things I've learned on Ethereum and all the other broken blockchains and wallets and DApps and features that I really, really struggled to learn and use. I want to make it really easy for everyone. And Cardano's layers and technology is far beyond what you can do with a lot of these other ones. It doesn't mean you can't use all of these other blockchains in Cardano or use them for other purposes. But I've been onboarding artists and creating on the blockchain and with NFTs and fungible tokens and trading them and playing with them for a really long time. Over a decade ago, we made an app called the Promoverse, and it was a coupon redemption app. And it's exactly what we're doing here with NFTs and what everybody wants. And that was over a decade ago. So for everyone talking metaverse and tokens and all this tech, we've already had all this. It's about time we all put it together. So we have all the technology, we have all the best people in the industry, but nobody's talking to one another. So my view here is driving Catalyst. I'm just going to try to get everybody on track and drive this forward, because we're basically racing all the other blockchains. And I really hate all the disinformation. And it's really bad for the users, investors, and artists if all these pieces aren't working. So that's what I'm doing here, driving Catalyst.
Mm.
And if you guys have seen any of those pieces as well, feel free to comment. And anybody who would like to introduce themselves, and I do recognize some names, but happy to say hello. And if you have any talents in the ecosystem or any proposals in, feel free to share.
Hey, George.
Yeah. George, what about Cardano Contributors League? Let's go.
What's on, guys? Yeah, I missed the start. I had a phone call, so I missed what the hell these rooms are about. So I'm just going to join the one that sounded the most catalysty.
Yes.
This one won.
For sure.
Exactly what I did too.
Yeah, Daniel didn't even know what to call this type of room. He wasn't sure about it, and that's part of the mystery, and that's part of the thing I love about crypto as well. Because if you drop the hints, if you almost troll the trolls, you can also intrigue the smartest people as well, because it's like, this is funky. I don't know what this is. Let's go. And if you ever stumbled upon my rooms in any other place, it's pretty much the same type of thing. So I'm just did a live stream last night with securing people's wallets and crypto and NFT securities and all of these things. So I'm trying to span the horizon of the ecosystem to kind of bridge that education gap and kind of get rid of the disinformation and all the maxis and stuff. And Catalyst is the highest potential of human collaboration. So
Yeah.
if we're not talking to each other and bringing all the humans together to collaborate in a very open space that we can develop together, and if we don't know what each other are doing or what our talents are, so the goal here was to kind of find out what your roadblocks were. Each and every one of you just submit what your roadblock is, a link to any proposals you have in, and I'd love to get some contact information or a resume so we know the talents that we're pulling together here and just a little part of your story.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I can start. I'll just do a little intro and talk about my proposals and kind of say what driving Catalyst means to me. So my name's Logan. A little bit about me. I'm an entrepreneur in the Catalyst ecosystem. So a brief background. I recently graduated from Stanford University, and then I actually played professional soccer for like 6 months, and then I quit because just the idea, I got so into blockchain and I wanted to start a business, and I found Cardano and I believed in the vision. So I decided to quit soccer and work on this idea full time, and started to dig in the community, found out about Catalyst, and followed along for a little bit. And then I decided, we're getting to the point where I think it's legitimate where we can ask for funding. We're going to do a Catalyst proposal. So that's what we did. That's why I'm here. So what we're working on is creating a no-code solution so anyone can use Plutus smart contracts, whether it's a DApp or DAO, trying to create a smart contract library so that helps the ecosystem grow as fast and as easily as possible. So finding those killer use cases of smart contracts and building them out. And then what does driving Catalyst mean to me? I think it means just like being a productive part of this community that's trying to build, a decentralized future, and just do what you can to push it forward, whatever your talents are. So yeah, that's a bit about me and what I'm doing.
Awesome.
For me, when I heard driving Catalyst, the image that came to mind was a vehicle with a trailer. And I feel like I look at Catalyst and I say, well, there's something that somebody's driving, and it's driving, and I might be able to get on that trailer, or maybe not, but I'm certainly not driving it. And even though like I have capacity to be helping to facilitate process and projects, and yet there is little in the way of actual ability to make a tangible difference without flowing through this high overhead process, very slow process. And for me, driving catalyst would be acknowledging the community trust of organizations that are present in the ecosystem, and to entrust them with actually making decisions about funding without the high administrative burden of this process that takes 4 months from idea to actual funds. 4+ months, assuming that, like, look at Logan, who's thought about the idea and starts building the idea, but like you got to wait for the start of the process and have your proposal sketched out. So yeah, I see a potential future where we can entrust some funds to organizations to move quickly and say, we've identified the stuff that we all agree is important to vet the meaningfulness of proposals, and maybe we could help them drive into being viable and receiving their first bit of funding in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and really make Catalyst a fluid process instead of slow, transactional, administratively heavy, uncertain, low ROI process.
Yes.
Thanks,
Some people,
Randall.
yes, some people I've seen are working on some smaller cycles. I know I've talked with Quasar and his hard fork combinator, and he's working on building some Discord server to do that. And that was probably before Christmas when I was talking to him about that, but interesting, and other people have the same thoughts for sure. Anyone else?
I kind of had a question. What is kind of the relationship you would say between Catalyst, C Fund, Emergo? So like kind of the private investors in this decentralized system. And does anyone have any thoughts on what they think that balance should be? Because I agree, like it'd be awesome if the whole community was like, yes, this is a good idea, let's make it happen, and then it happened faster. And that more fluid system that Randall was talking about, I think that's something valuable to think about. But I was
Maybe I
just
can
wondering if
take
you
that.
had any thoughts about that.
Yeah, I was just wondering if I can be useful in any way in this session, but yes, and useful in the way of clarification, not in the way in which I would want things to work, because you touched a wound here for me, Logan. So that's how I saw it as well, that the C Fund is there to support the projects which are most successful. The C Fund just recently revised their strategy, and they are practically, although you may offer that, so it's not excluded, but I know because I go with them constantly with amazing projects. So their strategy is instant gratification, pardon my expression. So it is like, if they do not make a lot of money tomorrow, they're not gonna support you. I'm trying to get funding now for impactful projects and for what is happening here from other sources. Murgo, I cannot speak for them, but from my experience and my interactions with them, they are also kind of more or less profit oriented. So I do not know if you will speak to their, let's say, heart, but that is an issue. And the projects here are very much I would call them embryonic and sparks, yes, that we need to support and foster. We do not have a mechanism yet. John O'Connor is trying to do such a thing in Africa. I don't know if your projects are there, but I just want to tell you the closest to what you were asking as an answer is the A Fund, which is the Africa Fund, mainly oriented on the projects which are based there. I think maybe only oriented. So he received a bunch of money from Charles for that. Sorry, I'm just losing my voice because it hurts me, you know, to tell you that. So this is unfortunately, but I am working on that. And to this, I just wanted to also mention my answer to that driving catalyst, because I came here also, of course, with something in my mind. And to me, it was like, you know, I didn't envision a vehicle or that someone is driving it, but values are driving it. And that's the main thing here. Yes, how do we revise? How do we actually choose those values? Yes, so are we here? And probably many, yes, for Lambos or to change the world and make it better, or, you know, so, or both, all of the above. And then how do we actually, I'm here for, first of all, selfishly, because I feel this is an environment in which I can flourish as an individual by contributing to something which I believe. And of course, each of us are for different reasons, but that is, I think that's what came to mind, driving catalyst. And I just want to support you the best I can. That's why I'm here.
Thank you, Michaela. Philip.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, driving catalyst is a nice idea. I don't also see it as driving. When I imagine catalyst, I always imagine some kind of semi-controlled chaos. Like I imagine if let's have this driving comparison. I imagine someone building a road, 10 people building a road, 10 people trying to start the car, but 3 people still tuning the engine, someone pushing the car, someone, you know, that's how I imagine it. And it's still rolling somehow. It's still rolling. But it's just, I see a lot of different, and you know, if we listen to Kyle before, we see still a lot of entities, because in the end, Catalyst is just a testnet for Voltaire. That's something that we need to keep in mind. Catalyst should be at one point a system where somehow millions of people come to highly technical, highly societal, highly governmental, highly economical decisions together, somehow. It has never been done in history effectively. It always ended up with either a benevolent dictator that ended up being replaced by a malevolent dictator, and some sort of, you know, socialist utopian attempt that ends up in a malevolent dictator, or capitalism that ends up however it ends up, right? So it's a big thing, right? And we can always focus on one small thing, and we always do, whether it's, you know, should we have 3 pools, should we have 6 pools, should we have 1 pool, should K be 1,000, should K be 250, should CAs do this, should VCAs exist. There are so many small problems that we can talk about forever. Like you said now, investments, what is the role of C fund? What is the role of Emergo fund? I happen to be a scout for an investment fund for Revuto. And the purpose of any investment fund, I mean, the whole idea is to make money. If it's not, if it's something that doesn't make money, it's not an investment fund, it's a charity fund. It's a purpose fund. If it's an investment fund, by definition, it needs to make money. So we cannot blame any investment fund for trying to make money, right? And in my view, if we want to have high impactful projects, Catalyst is just a nice start of that. But those projects need to take care how they will sell, what they want to sell, and how they will make their income. It is what it is. And if we want to do open source, there are ways to do open source, but then You know, we should not think about, I'm going to have a lot of money, I'm going to have a nice house. No, you're going to do open source. Probably big companies are going to use your software and your things for free, never pay you, never credit you, because that's what you want. You want to improve the world. And that is nice and that is noble, but don't expect a monument in your name, right? Only dictators get monuments. So that's how I see it.
So all great points. Thank you for coming in here, Flip. Thanks for bringing that passion. George, Ken, Smed, Nadim, would you like to share what is driving Catalyst to you, and a couple of maybe roadblocks that are getting in your way?
Yeah, I don't mind going. Yeah, I guess on that driving analogy, it's just like there's everyone's steering the wheel, and everyone's turning in different directions. It's some similar, some different, some straight. You know, it's just like there's no right way to go in the early stages. It's trying different routes and trying to work out which one is the path that makes sense for 1,000 different things, because there's so many different parameters, different ways to engage, different things to think about in Catalyst. It's especially Catalyst, because there's just governance is such a large topic, and there's so many different ways you can think about how to solve that problem. It's definitely not binary. Yeah, I think we kind of talk about the rapid funding there. That is something that I am very, very interested in, and it's something that Peter was mentioning earlier with the Contributors League. This is something that I think is really important, because governance for rapid funding is so important. There's ways to make it a faster process, that it's not to do with the general ADA holders, which can be quite a slow and laboursome process. It doesn't make sense for the general ADA holders to be voting every week, every month kind of thing. It becomes it's a very expensive process, and it's a lot to ask. But to have this kind of faster speed for governance, how do you choose who governs that? Like, is it done by these kind of trusted projects? Is it done by individuals? And I think this is something this kind of idea of full-time contributors could be very effective for, because if you go for this kind of longer process of choosing, these people should help to improve, let's say, the Catalyst ecosystem as contributors. They're also very, very good candidates for, if it's diverse enough, 16, 20, 30 people, to vote on, to have a funding pot for contributors that they vote on. Oh, there's these guys working on these smart contract tools that are going to be very useful for the system. They vote, allocate some funds. They've done some sort of iteration. Oh, they've got something else. And it's taking in these kind of like, you know, whether it's a local event, these kind of different tools, and giving that process for voting it through. And as long as, if those people voted in as contributors are like public and their votes are public, then everyone can see, you know, how they are contributing and understanding where the benefits are to ecosystem. So it's just like, it's very transparent, it's very open. You know, if, you know, when you look at those kind of results and how people are voting, you can kind of like, yeah, this person really understands the ecosystem and I want them to continue being a contributor. So it's very open, everyone can see what's going on. I think how this could evolve over time, and this is the complexities with governance, is that it is very, like, the general ADA holder is very, very good contender for voting for the general direction of things. So I roughly think we need about 10% of funds going into events and 30% of funds going towards dApps, and this kind of general kind of flow of like what we see the big kind of over issues are. But you get this kind of level of granularity where obviously it becomes much more nuanced and needs to be focused on who's, you know, for instance, choosing a front-end framework for how we're going to solve this new tool within Catalyst. That should be for technical developers who are working full-time, who vote on it themselves in a transparent and open way. So it's always a sliding bar. And I think this is something that I'm dreaming, because it's not going to happen yet. And this is another attempt to steer the wheel a little bit. How we can think about these different levels of governance and Catalyst, and how we kind of steer these directions, and who should be involved in each kind of thing, because it's not always the general aid holders. It's very, very expensive to do that. And it's trying to pick those different things and make sure you involve as many people as you can that make sense. That's some of the tricky things we're going to have with even just that small branch alone of who should be involved in what is, again, 1,000 different things to think about, let alone all the, you know, implementation, all these other things. Something I'm spending a lot of time on. I've shared this Contributors League link a few places online and stuff. I'll share it in the chat just in case anyone hasn't seen it. It's something that could be very effective at taking this whole product flow workflow process. I've been analyzing things for a few days, and I keep on adding to it and keep on trying to compare all these different structures about how Catalyst itself can evolve. There's lots of different ways you can structure projects, teams, individuals and stuff. And it's so important to think about. it's at the end of the day, we only have a limited amount of funding. It's not a never-ending thing. Like there's only so many different iterations and kind of different forms of execution you want. You don't, if you have, let's say you have 3 voting acts, you want to think about what's the benefit of having those 3, what's the differences they're going to have, because at the end of the day, they are an investment. They're a time investment. Is that the best way to spend resources and someone's time as well? These are all complex, very complex decisions and things to think a lot about. So it's a lot of kind of area that I'm spending a lot of time, because the better we can do that and allocate resources and think about what's the best way to collaborate the best and compete on the most important things, the ideas that what data are we bringing in, how are we making that decision, rather than maybe projects where they've got to have branding, adoption, marketing. There's a lot of wasted efforts in lots of areas. How can we make that a lot better? So it's going to be very interesting next few months. I'm really excited to see different ways of us doing funding and thinking about it, and then also applying different levels of governance. But
those are really awesome. I do want to follow up with a few of those things, but I do want to let Ken, if you can share or would like to share, or Nadim, if you'd like to share what driving catalyst would mean to you.
I can share. I think when I think of a catalyst, it's basically something that facilitates the process of turning one thing into something more useful. And when I think of driving catalyst, I think of you're trying to improve that process of transferring what you have into what you want to have. So like if you have people who have ideas, you have people who have skills, and you're trying to translate that into teams or projects that will improve the Cardano ecosystem. And so if there's any way that you can facilitate that process or minimize the amount of energy required into building those teams and getting those projects rolling, that's what I see as the goal of Catalyst.
Thanks, Ken. Do you see anything getting in the way, in your opinion, at the moment? What do you see as the biggest obstacle in that?
I think it is useful having the governance structure set up the way it is, but I'm a little worried about how scalable it is, like with that type of process. Like if you're trying to look at it, like Dora was talking about the different perspectives, like the technology or grassroots or the investors. And I guess through technology and a more grassroots approach, I think it's possible to do more. Like it's a complex problem, so a lot of thought needs to go into creating a solution that's better. Like I think the process as it is a good start. There's a lot of different approaches to it, and one thing that's good about an open blockchain is that anyone can put together a system on top of the blockchain and test things out, see what works, and hopefully we come up with something that scales as more people join the Cardano community.
Thanks, Ken. Philip, I see your hand up. Philippe?
Yeah, thank you. I like when you said the challenges, I worry about this a lot and for a long time, because to have a successful governance system, like any other problem that we have in the ecosystem, are mostly 99% technical problems, right? So scalability, smart contracts, side chains, Milkome does, light wallets, mithrils are cryptographic, scientific, technical problems that are very difficult, but solvable. With enough effort, with enough money, we will solve them with enough time. Governance, on the other hand, it's just, I don't know. Sometimes people think of Voltaire as just another phase, you know, it's just, we'll code it somehow. And how are we going to code 50% of ADA participating or 50% of people, ADA holders participating? At least 50, because that and only that can give you some notion of legitimacy before you start questioning the plutocratic model, right? How are you going to do that, right? That cannot be coded. That cannot be coded. We have 150 people coming to town halls. We have a dev community of maybe, you know, a Discord is a couple of thousand people. Let's say 1,000 of them are active. Let's say that you have 10, 15, 20, 30,000 ADA holders that kind of open idea scale. They throw in a vote. I don't know, 45, 50,000 wallets are voting. 10 or 11% of ADA, of circulating supply, is voting. Binance has 60 pools that are fully saturated. That means that, you know, if we multiply a couple billion ADA are just sitting there, they don't, you know, people don't care about it, right? So not only do we need to get those people to learn and understand, but first we need to get them to care. And I don't see any democracy currently. I'm not an expert by any means, but I mean, national elections, local elections, any kind of elections, people go out 20, 30, 40%, people go out to elect their leaders, except in times of, you know, great strife and, you know, protests, so people care about it more. But in general, people don't care, right? So how do we do that? Like, if someone can please tell me, I'm genuinely asking, like if someone can suggest something or have some proposal, because this is not a Cardano problem, this is a wider problem in all the ecosystems, right? So this is not for us alone. But if we want to have governance, whatever we do can be questioned, is it legitimate? Because in the end, a couple of hundred or couple of thousand people made the decision in whatever way. If we even have a unanimous decision of something, we are not a representative majority in any metric. So how is that a legitimate decision, right? So that's what concerns me, right? That's what really concerns me, because I don't see that being fully solved 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line. I see that being solved by, you know, evolution of consciousness of species, which will, I don't know, it will take some time for that, right?
No, and all great points, and yeah, in governance layer here, you can't just code it. You can't just make it up. And making it permissionless makes a lot of tech hurdles, like Philippe has alluded to here. And yeah, it's not impossible, but even those guys, they don't know exactly how to build what they need, because there's no proper solution. It's case by case. But that dev time is really hard to make case by case. And that's something like Logan's trying to help people do on that level. I'd love to, you know, think of this as everybody's building this engine, and the catalyst is in the fuel, but somebody's got to turn the key. And, you know, I'm not going to worry about what Binance is doing with their BS pools, because they're not even using them correctly. And the problem is here, anybody who bought ADA still doesn't know how to use their ADA properly. So education on that layer is key. And then maybe, because there's quite a bit staked, but is it staked properly, or is it in the right places? And if this is really going to be a decentralized structure, who really makes the decision of any part of this, really? So it's important for us to all come together with our ideas, because otherwise we have a bunch of people screaming about what they want and they don't really know what they want. So we can listen, but that's why you have the circles listening and watching the community so that they can feel, what's most important at this point to maybe press that button and fund quickly. Because I don't like the months and months of administrative, I need money. Well, I needed money last week. Well, I still put money in my proposal for the 2 funds before. And then there's people who are actually delivering their KPIs and then not getting funding because it doesn't look like they are. So there's too many layers there. And let's start this baby up. Go ahead, guys. I go ahead.
Go ahead, Logan.
I see your hand.
Yeah, I just want to kind of comment on what Philip said. I agree and disagree with it at the same time. I think if you think about of the proportion of people that are registered to vote, most of them vote. And there is this kind of mania that came along with cryptocurrency. So people bought ADA for all sorts of reasons. But I think that people that hold ADA, that have this intention to participate in this community, are really trying to make a big impact. And it's just, for me personally, I've never been in such a diverse and intelligent community. Like, we're bouncing off really cool ideas to each other, and we're collaborating in these really amazing ways. And I think that the tools that are being built, I think the people that understand what needs to be built are the people that are somewhat have their hands on the wheel right now. And I think that's a good thing. And just thinking about a feasible idea of I have to kind of, make Catalyst even better. And I think it's super easy. It's like a short-term fix would be to fix the UI and UX of the experience of participating in Catalyst. Make it easier to collaborate with people and say, brainstorm ideas and form teams and talk about their ideas, submit proposals, register to vote, if that could be easier. I followed along Catalyst a few times before I even registered to vote, because I was like, oh, I have to send it to this wallet and do this and this and this. And, for some people, it's like obvious, like now it's obvious to me. Why would I never do that? But for other people, that's like a big thing. Like, trying to talk someone through registering to vote is a process. Like, my dad holds ADA because he thinks it's a good investment. And then I have to sit down with him for 15 minutes to be like, hey, I'm in this Catalyst thing. Like, if you hold in the ADA, like, just register to vote. And he's like, how do I do that? And I have to walk him through the whole process. So just the UI and UX of the whole experience being buffed up, I think would be a good way to drive Catalyst forward faster.
Thanks for your comment there. Perfect. Samed, how are you, sir? Welcome. And what's driving Catalyst to you?
Hey, I'm good. Thank you. I've been like, Fund 7 is my first one that I'm participating in, and I know we've had a couple of conversations previously, and it's interesting because I'm doing like development on Cardano, although it's like completely like my own like vision and my own artwork of development, you could say. So one of the things, like, going back to, okay, only 11% of the people are voting, right, off the total supply, or like increasing the UI, like buffing up the UI for voting purposes. Those are all like good points. And I think in the end, it really just goes back to like education and really like, so say for example, me, right? I made a website and this and that, and I was able to acquire I was counting the other day, about 260 different Cardano addresses, right? Shelly addresses. So like now, and their email addresses and things like that. Now, if I made a video, me personally, I don't know how to go in and vote, right? Like, if I have a Cardano Yoroi wallet or like things like that, I still have to learn that. Maybe it'll take me 15 minutes, 20 minutes, but like, just to like improve that voting mechanism where like the whole supply is voting, I think it's like you have to educate your own like niche community on exactly how to vote, and then and help them go through that process. And when they do that for a certain project and they see it succeed, I think it just becomes like a domino effect. They'll go and talk to their friends, right? Like maybe you'll talk to your dad and you'll explain to him, oh, you could vote like this, and so on and so forth. I think it has to be more organic than anything else. And you saw that with Ethereum, right? But it was not like a voting mechanism like last year. It was more like people were just going in there and just like giving their Ethereum and getting these coins, but in a way like they were investing, right? So we just need to like have them invest in the idea, like the idea scale or whatever idea that you're proposing. And I think that could really, like, once that education is there in a very seamless way, because people don't have an attention span of more than like 8 minutes. It has to be conveyed quickly in 8-minute like videos on exactly how to vote, and then people can keep on voting. And yeah, and you know, to be for me, Catalyst like is just so broad. Like there's so many different like areas that things are growing in, right? And that's pretty cool. And sometimes it's like hard for me to understand like what the other person is doing, because they're just like so different than what I am doing. And my like view is completely here. Like my vision every day, I'm just tuned into this. So it's like interesting to see that as well. But yeah, I mean, I think like if you have a community, if you could develop a community and then kind of train them on how to vote, that training will always be with them, and then it'll probably grow like a wildfire. So yeah.
Yeah. Education is a massive part of all of this, and creating the onboarding channels to
Right.
to do that. I think that is, in my mind, I think that kind of ties into what Philip was saying about governance and incentivizing. We have to incentive. I don't know whether you incentive. I feel like learning is supposed to be fun. Learning is play. Kids learn when they're playing. So we need to incentivize the learning, and then you bake in the governance, the incentives for why you should know these things, so that you can input here and be an active local citizen. Because in most countries, I'm from America, but no one votes locally. Well, not no one, but very few people vote locally. And anyway, 2 cents. Nadeem.
Nadeem, welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, thank you. Likewise, just building on what you guys are saying, definitely I agree with education. And one of the biggest drivers, at least for me, is the vision. So why are we here? What are we doing? And I don't think many people in the world know what we're doing here. And yes, today we're trying to govern some ADA, but eventually it's going to be all the projects launching on Cardano. Eventually it's going to be municipal. It's going to be maybe your nation state government and institutions. That's the vision. And I don't think we do as good of a job as we could in terms of educating in that. And so that's on one hand. Number two is, whether we like it or not, the technology is not there yet. So I think we can really start showing the use cases and rolling it out even more rapidly when we can start using something like Catalyst in our local organizations, in our municipalities, in our villages, in our that kind of thing. And for us to get there, I feel like the biggest challenge will be keeping the faith, the community keeping the faith. And what's helps in this way is that there are incentives and disincentives that we can tailor make so that we continue, because for the first time ever, it's not based on someone wanting to do good. It's now we're trying to find the alignment between the incentives and the outcome, which has never been done before. And that is coming up with a flourishing, an explosion of many things that no one ever thought of. Like now I'm working with the admin team on the circle, and so many things that you would have never expected, and so many questions that come up that just come out of nowhere. And yeah, it's going to be an interesting few months, few years until we set the foundations and start building on it. And looking forward to doing that.
Yes. Smart.
Yeah, I just wanted to like kind of add on to this thing, right? Like, what if like, and this is just something that I'm throwing out there, and I could be like completely wrong. Like, so what if like say like you have ADA in your wallet, like minimum of 500, and then you go and you vote on a project, right? And then that project gets developed, and then eventually they have their own token on say Cardano. What if like these people that voted will get a percentage of those tokens, right? Like maybe 5% of the supply or whatever it may be, if they get funded through Catalyst. Wouldn't that be a good incentive? And then like that idea can grow more. Yeah,
sort of.
exactly.
It depends on what country you're like in, if that's, you know, allowed or not at the moment. So you just have to be super careful about those type of things. But yeah, if you make that type of promise to give that later on, I could see that kind of in certain scenarios here being an issue. But yeah, George, I see you have a comment.
Not fully related to that. Mine was a follow on. I don't want to interrupt in case anyone had.
Take the floor, sir.
Yeah, so I guess my thoughts hearing a few different thoughts is the way I see how governance is really going to rise in importance is we're going to see use cases that have true meaning to someone, and it's good that everyone has their own certain things that bring them value. For like a farmer, it could be access to funds through a DeFi protocol, and suddenly they really care about how that protocol is run and what it's meant for them and how it's changed their life. And you take that across the board, whether it's gaming, this or that, people can start making money in gaming. It's play to earn, all these different kind of things. People will get involved with the governance when they really care about that use case that they're involved with. And I think this is like you see with Catalyst, like my income and how my life now is in Catalyst. So I really, really care about the governance of Catalyst. Like if I don't spend my time on this, then it's like, I'm not improving the thing that's, I can make a living off, and, it's just an enjoyable environment to be in. And everyone's going to have a capacity on how much governance they can get in. There's going to be a ridiculous amount of governance coming up in the future, and it's going to be very, very exciting but scary at the same time. It's like this kind of idea of delegating, but also when you're involved, when you delegate and all these different things, they're all going to follow use case. And once you have that use case, it's how can we make it as easy as possible after that point that you can get involved with governance. It's like as soon as you have that kind of adopting kind of growth, we're going to see it in the DeFi protocols. The next thing for them is like how they make it as easy as possible to get involved with that governance, build those tools. So then, what are the parts they care about to kind of guide the process in this? Because like you can easily have chaos with governance. And I think we see that in Catalyst in plenty of areas. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's like as it matures, there will be less areas maybe to argue about because data has shown this is a very, very effective approach. And it's like there's only a few ways you're not going to do it. And things will evolve. So it becomes like you're arguing about the things that are much more like paradoxical. It's just like there's no like yes or right answer. It's like a sliding bar. So I'm excited to see kind of how that unfolds and how much people are involved in governance based on this kind of passion of the new way they're making income, the new, this new sense of communities. There's so many different ways you want to be involved in something that is much more. It's the first time we're going to see, systems where we really do, shape how they're moving. And like how communities form is also going to have these like systems that work in one way, and you're going to have this kind of like hard fork of this like people who want to use this in a slightly different way, and those two communities take exactly the same code and go, we're running this a little bit differently. And we've not really seen that yet, but I imagining something like that happening where we kind of understand this is how this kind of works, but there's caveats where there's like really different thoughts of opinion, and then two kind of different products form. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's great. That's great.
Yes.
Randall, I see your hand up there.
Randall.
I asked the question, what are our key governance assets? And some people might point to IdeaScale as being a key governance asset, or some people might point to the voting app as being our key governance asset, or some people might point to voters as being the key governance asset. But I submit that George is our key governance asset, and that Philip is our key governance asset, and Mihaela and Logan and Peter and Chris and Randall and Nadim and Samad and Ken. Those are our key governance assets. If we choose to prioritize the reputation that we've created, the trust that we've created together, and the space that we're creating together to guide action and allow this trust and this space to flow our decisions, not without accountability to all of those other people in the process. I don't know how actionable that is, but I am interested in creating a process by which we, key governance assets, are doing the thing, doing the result.
I think, that brings me to this idea which Dor mentioned about the hallway, because I was thinking exactly that. Like, once I enter the hallway, why am I here? And then how can I give the best of myself to the cause? Because I know why I'm here. And I think that, exactly as you say, it starts with each and every one of us, and then our intent and being in it together and knowing why we are here. There were many things mentioned here, which sometimes I was like, so we are here for the highest collaboration, yes, potential. But then it was also mentioned here in this session in the beginning that we are competing and against so many others, and maybe sometimes with ourselves. And this is a way I'm hoping we can change something. Because another one is like money drives, right? Money drives Catalyst also, because we are governing a treasury, and then who is getting funding and who not, and then we compete against ourselves sometimes. So there are so many other issues here, so which are not solved. That's why we are here to solve them. But thank you for inspiring me at least to learn all this. And yes, amazing insights from you.
Thank you. Philip.
Yeah, I love Randall's idea, and I think that honestly, even in the wider Catalyst community, I think we do believe each other. We trust each other. Maybe sometimes to a fault, doesn't even matter. I think, I never met Randall in my life physically. I never met George. I never met any of you here. But I would be confident, that if there is a task to be done within Catalyst, I would be confident that if you just put your word that you would do it, right? Which is fine and great when the stakes are low, right? But if we get to a point of a municipality or of a country, and where we are, I forgot the phrase that you used, Randall, but the assets of governance, right? Mm-hmm. And let's say that Dr. M is a taxing asset of governance, and something happens, then everybody points a finger at her, right? That's the whole issue in law. That's the whole issue in politics. Who is to blame when something goes wrong, right? That's the whole, when everything is okay, it doesn't matter if you have a dictator, if you have a democracy, if you have a plutocracy. When everybody's happy, right? But as soon as something goes wrong, we are yearning to put a finger on someone. Still, in Cardano, we put a finger to IOG, we put a finger to Charles. That's the default action. Whatever is wrong, IOG, whatever is wrong, Charles. Because when everything is great, then we are, yay, we're doing everything together, we're a big community and happy. When something is wrong, Charles centralization, they have, CF has a billion ADA from the pre-sale, Emergo has a lot of money, we are very ready to point fingers, right? So we have to prove, if we really want to grow to a level of municipality of a country, we need to find a way where security discussion, what I think Logan suggested, where if we fund a project with ADA and we get paid in another token, for now that is a security offering. Most of the jurisdictions would just say, hey, that's not cool, right? But if we can prove that that is a viable system in a society, but that's a societal change, like that changes a lot of things in the world, or at least in a country, that can bring another step of a social revolution, right? Because then you have incentives that are programmable, right? But then again, do we as a community accept the risk that Logan will rug pull us? Do we do that? Right? Because if I voted for you and I gave you my money, if you rug pull me, it's not your fault, it's my fault because I voted for you. I mean, whose fault is it, right? That's the point of decentralization. Who takes how are we doing that? Because when everything is fine, everything is fine. But when something goes wrong, do we look at ourselves first and say, hey, what should I have done better? Or, you know, who is my, bad guy of the week? Let's yell at him. Let's put him, let's hashtag Twitter him all day, and then I'll feel better about my decisions. So that's but that's a deep, I think, human thing. It's difficult to change, right? I think so. Maybe I'm wrong. I would love to hear the opinions.
So
I just wanted to mention, sorry,
okay.
this morning we had a meeting with the Atala team, and this issue came up because they are considering, of course, privacy, as well as zero knowledge proof, anonymity, complete anonymity versus accountability. So that's the issue. Yeah. So the issue of the bad actor came to the fore, and they are developing technologies to actually do through verifiable credentials kind of the identity verification, which also keeps the anonymity. So we can embed in the system what Charles was mentioning in his keynote in Wyoming, that we can freely act, but we also can embed some values there. So that's one thing in which hopefully we can be helped as individuals, because we are not evolved to that level of consciousness which you mentioned. But what Randall was saying still holds now, because it is up to each and every one of us. I want to be the best that I can be as a human being, and of course I cannot expect that everyone can do that. There's a risk all the time, but the accountability, I still think it's ours.
Michaela, I think it's in Project Catalyst, what struck me really hard is the community. It puts collaboration over competition, and I think if you look into this as a DNA of what Catalyst is and what it does, and you think about that, the idea of Cardano, we just want to change every single system in the world, whether it's political, whether it's biological, whether this is related to energy, to banking, telecommunications. We've got our own way to do that. And I think, in Catalyst, we've got a great example of how people network, how people link. This is my experience. This is what I experienced, where I've joined Cardano for climate, and I've been presenting over there, and immediately I get referred to some other projects, which to me as a newbie in Catalyst, it's a little it's a bit of a strike. It puts me out of my comfort zone for sure, because all of a sudden I'm forced to make some kind of adjustments, some pivots, to be agile in my approach. But that's what I come to live with that, and I actually love it, and I appreciate that someone told me, hey, talk to these guys, they did something similar, you can utilize some of their knowledge. And I think that should be the principle that's applicable across everything we do in Catalyst. Just my 2 cents.
Thanks for sharing that, Jacob. That was a lot more than 2 cents, but good tips. And I just wanted to comment, as far as the fragility goes in the motorsports realm, when somebody crashes out of a race, whose fault is it? When a tire changer breaks the gun or wasn't prepared or something, do you point the fingers at him? When the kicker misses the punt, do you point at him? Now, you always have the weakest link, but here you really need a whole team. So if you can get behind a passion, like you guys were saying earlier, like a cause, and we can grow those almost, I'm going to call them applications, just because DApps sound funny, but they're application. So if we find this cause and we want to promote that thing, that has a niche. And basically at this current point, we have to go get funding and votes on that niche. And it's kind of an odd process. But if we can have people championing things that the circle identifies as perfect pieces to work on at that time, and then noticing that the challenge has these proposals in it, they should be able to be selective and rapidly get onboarded with people that say are VCAs of the community. If the VCAs and the circle look at a proposal and they agree that that thing just needs to get moving, or they're applicable of this work, they've reached these key point indicators that they've done the work, look what they've delivered, look what they're doing, get them compensated in a way from the platform. And again, if they're all championing it together and everybody's winning, then everybody will be happy. But as soon as, the tire changer, trips, it's all over. So just be careful. Don't shoot the tire changer. It's not his fault you lost the race. You lose as a team.
Agree.
Yeah.
Chris, two more cents to add on that. I think there's a big part in the attitude that people must have when they come to Catalyst. Basically, you don't come here to pitch, you come here to work. And you come here to work not only on your project, but on other projects as well. And this should be the kind of, if you have ideas, that's brilliant. And the community will quickly give you feedback on those ideas. But I think what's important is that you team up with people who are already there, maybe with more experience than you yourself, and you just piggyback and leverage this experience, and you support them. And I think I came in with the idea that, okay, I want to pitch, I want to get funds. I ended with me actually supporting and pushing other people's projects because I think they're brilliant. And I think this could be applicable to Catalyst in general. It comes to soft skills, to design skills, to coding. Everybody can, there's like every project needs something. And I noticed following different projects in the blockchain space that right now actually there's one thing and only one thing only that matters most. It's the community. If the project has a community, whether it's a massive Telegram group with a very responsive moderators, or if it's a well-organized Discord channel, these are the things that people pay attention to. And effectively, we're in a short game. If we're talking like things like NFTs, 1 year ago, we wouldn't have this conversation. So these things evolve very quickly. And today, if you want to get into any NFT game or if you want to kick off any NFT project, the first and probably the only thing you need to do is build a community. And the same thing applies to Catalyst.
Yes. It all comes down to you got to have fanboys for your projects. You need to have people you're helping. You need to boost those other artists. I launched a lot of artists, so I know that feeling, and it really feels good when you launch them. And George, Logan, I do see your hands up. I would love to get to your comments.
Yeah, so on accountability, I think this is part of the complexity of how teams are forming very, very fluidly in working different things. Like you could be working on one thing for a long time or 5 different things, and it's trying to nurture that kind of environment where if I make a mistake, it's more, and something goes wrong, it's more of a process problem to do with all of us that are relevant working that specific problem, and that we didn't create the right processes to defend it. Because if it goes to the individual, it's nothing wrong with that being like it was that individual, but if that's how it's being communicated, it just creates a very siloed, very negative kind of blame and name shame kind of game. And it's how these team dynamics of how they form, because they are a lot more fluid. And in many cases, like Philip was saying, I've not met many of the faces I've seen here. I've met some in London, great, but I've not met many. So, and when you can move in and out of these projects so easily and be working on multiple different things, accountability is more tricky. And who's involved with what, and who's done what. So I think it's going to be difficult in some ways. It's going to be interesting. It's easy to start with public faces and kind of being. It's much more easy to trust. How are we going to move and how that kind of develops the whole anonymous thing? Same with even privacy coins, and the governments do not like privacy coins, and us not trusting anonymous people. I can't say it comes immediately. I don't see it coming immediately just because there's complexity in it, and you need to understand how accountability is going to work there, the risks in play, and then it's like you've got the bad actor kind of situation. And in terms of like the collaboration and stuff, like anything we can do that maximizes collaboration and creates glues between different things, because it's much different. And so the key difference between Web 2 and Web 3 is Web 2 is I'm competing with another project that's similar, and I'm using tools that I need to, and it's like I'm building a moat. I want to be over a network effect. It's like that was the big tech thing, be defensible. Whereas with Web 3, it's much more like those interconnections. Like how can we actually make the best ecosystem we can by connecting, building on top, and sharing those skills and the thing. So in Catalyst, this is something I've been thinking about a lot. This is a big reason why I've been looking at this Contributors League, this kind of full-time contributors. It's like, how can we make environments that are like not about competing about the full execution, and it's more just about getting the most talented people in, and their incentive is to bring everything together, not necessarily just working on Catalyst per se, but all this other thing. They see these two projects that would really benefit from collaborating. How could I be incentivized to make sure I can do everything I can to make this the best outcome for everyone, for the end user, for them as a collaboration and all that. So anything we can do to nurture those environments and make both incentives and just like opportunity for it to happen is how you make that massive cascading kind of effect. Because there's always something like, for instance, I really love doing analysis. I might do documentation through the roofs. It'd be a shame if I was siloed just doing one specific thing rather than being able to like easily contribute across loads of other areas, for instance. The more we can do that, the more impact that certain people can just spread all across the kind of ecosystem.
Yeah.
Logan, if I may, just before you start, I want to build on George's point here. That's exactly what I was talking about previously when I was saying when I joined the circle, like the explosion of things that needed to be done that I would have never thought needed to be done. And it's exactly something like what George was talking about, aligning incentives for these things that in any other institution or governance system don't exist. So we need to create systems and tools for these things that we had never existed. And funding is very important. Just going through the contributor document was really so inspiring for me, and I feel is extremely needed because the community does not know what is going on. And okay, so Catalyst version 1 got funded. If Circle version 2 doesn't get funded, so they stop working and they go home, or are they gonna have to volunteer? And then every fund, I work with them and I see how much time and effort it takes to write proposals and just continuously hoping that the community is going to vote for them. It's counterproductive. So, and these are the things that we would have never known unless we started. And now that we're experimenting, that's why while reading George's document really inspired me, and I recommend everyone who hasn't seen it to check it out.
Yes.
Appreciate that, Nidhi. Yeah, I'm actually just the rebuttal. I'm actually glad it kind of has panned out as it is in terms of like just getting funded by proposals to experience what there's like loads of different people in Catalyst with different ideas and different kind of things, and just seeing that dynamic and how that environment is kind of panning out as just given so much kind of like experience. Like these are some key problems. Like if this continues, and this is a good reason maybe you might want to do it that way, and why these could be complementary. Why might you use this approach, and then why might you use this? It's not that you should just use one exclusively. It's just how should they be used together, like for maximum benefit. So you're not just going to completely forgetting or preventing new ideas from coming. You're not making some sort of weird monopoly where it's just going to like these guys who decide everything. How do you make sure like you get those new ideas in, but then the incentives are right for everyone? It's really hard, but it's the nature of the game. We were never going to get anywhere even close down the line when we started. But the people who are spending day in day out, we're seeing these problems, and it's like the evolution is exciting. Is the long and short of it.
I was hoping that the challenge teams actually kind of helped do that a little bit better.
Yes.
But it seemed to be very difficult. Go ahead, Logan.
Yeah, for sure. There's so many things I could say. I mean, the first thing I want to say is this is the first time I've ever dove into a Catalyst call. I just feel like it's such an amazing community. Everyone I ever meet from it is unique in their own way. They're doing cool things. And just being surrounded by people that I feel like are smarter than me, like all the time, is why I love this community. And just like I just want all you guys to know, like, I appreciate hearing your ideas, and that they're pretty cool. And like, it's cool to be on the Zoom call. And the other thing I wanted to say is, as a community, what we want to do, bottom line, is we want to spend money on the right things. And this is just coming from my perspective as kind of an entrepreneur. I'm like, we have a Haskell smart contract ready. We have our front end that's going to interact with it. And then we have we need to connect to the PAB so we can kind of launch. And what we want to do is use this money to get our smart contracts audited. And I think that if Catalyst was a source of funds to fund auditing of contracts, I think that's always a good source of funds, because that helps the community in a way that, you're not just sending out applications out there that you don't know if their smart contracts are legit. So that's just a thought I had.
Definitely.
Yeah, the smart contract guys in the room and telling everybody else he's smart. I think, Logan, you're definitely a smart guy in the room. Thank you. A Stanford graduate. You are definitely a bright cookie. Thanks for joining us. And yeah, dive in. It will motivate you, inspire you, and overwhelm you in many ways. Go ahead, Philip.
Yeah, of course. Wonderful appreciation for everybody, here, and for the whole community. Maybe I don't say it enough because I'm here for some time and we always say it, so I usually just skip through it, but I shouldn't, because it's important. It's a big deal. Appreciation of each other is a big deal. It creates a tribe, it creates a community, it creates a sense of comfort, and it motivates you to work to preserve that community, right? I hope I'm not sounding a bit cultist, but it is what it is. You have your family, you want to protect it. You have your community, you want to protect it. And to be a part of the community, you have to feel appreciated by the community. And that's very nice. I just want to give another specific shout out to Dr. M for joining us. She is, I'm sure she is very busy and she has a lot of things to do, and she takes the time to come here. That's amazing. Thank you, Doctor.
Oh, I'm learning so much. This is the best, the best time of my work. I just wanted to tell you, yes, I wish, just so you know, inside IOG, I'm refreshing my soul here. So it's just,
you see.
Thank you all. I just want, to make one remark to your, Philippe, legitimacy matter, because I have a long list now of reflection from all what was discussed here, but because you now also mentioned the community, so we are not practically here to replicate the model of the city hall and the governments around the world, but finding legitimacy for our own community and for the circles, and that, I think that's the idea, in finding new models in which we can govern ourselves. I think this is a key here, and that's what we are doing. And then I am hoping that somehow, through some miracle, and through all of us, as becoming more and more and the better selves that you were talking about, we will scale, yes, and then we will attract more. And these synergies that were mentioned here, yes, okay, so I had a project, and what if it's not funded next? But maybe I can join, not maybe, for sure there will be a team which I can join and bring that experience there. And so we will have to find those ways as well to continue the funding, but also not to lose, let's say, what we funded before, and to continue to keep nurturing, but also to, how do I call it? It's like organic cells. Someone was mentioning that how do we bring the projects from before that can contribute to the newly funded projects? And it's like, developing developmental biology now, new organs are formed and new synergies and so on and so forth. If I can use this metaphor, which I think is far too far. But anyway, thank you all. This is, best part of my.
Were you must have been a bio major, huh? Good analogy.
No, I'm a robotics engineer, very boring. But yes, I use those just because of my passion for governance.
Yes.
I really appreciate you joining us here. If anybody would like to jump up and share, Mike, Jerry, I don't want to drag on too long. We can do this weekly. I'm happy to do these things for everybody. I would love for you guys all to continue to attend. I think driving catalyst is a good point.
Thank you for the topic, by the way. Yeah, fantastic. Yes.
Yeah, it's hard because I'm in a couple of different layers, and I also don't want any conflicts of interest, but I also want to be here and learn and listen as well. So I think driving catalyst is a good point. I'm going to try to keep it up. And I'd encourage everybody to jump in a ride. Let's roll.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I see. Chris is a prime example of what I would like to see more challenge team members like to be. Is a good. Yeah. I don't know how to put Chris in a box and tell you know how he's operating inside of his challenge, but I haven't met too many challenge team leaders, and so I'm like, where are these people? What I felt like that was the mechanism by which we were supposed to kind of connect the circle with the challenge, and then be able to have kind of discussion in the middle there about how we're going to be how we should be prioritizing what's going on inside of each of the challenges. And I think that's where it will go. But this first round hasn't picked up like I kind of thought it would. Anyway, I'm super excited to propagate more great challenge teams and figure out how to do that. And I see this room as a way to create better challenge teams going into the next fund. Yeah.
Jerry, did you have anything you'd like to share with it? I'm probably going to leave this be, short as possible. So if people do want to catch up on what driving catalyst even is, they at least can make some time out of their day to watch somewhat of a decent length video. But Jerry, did you have any comments? Well, if Jerry has no comments, guys, I really appreciate you all joining us. And if you wouldn't mind, reach out to Peter so we can get a little bit of info from you, just so we can stay in touch. I'm experimenting. We're testing in many levels of this thing. So even if you have wallets, maybe I'll pour tokens on you or something, and you'd be interested in testing some of my new smart contracts and royalties and all kinds of fun stuff that are being built, because these integrations and cross chains. Oh, I will tell you guys, now we are fully integrated with NFTs and Roblox games. There's 7 of them created this week. So now if you would like to get your non-fungible tokens in a video game, the metaverse is live, guys. And there's so many other apps and integrations, and oh my God, so many things being built. It's just exciting. And as long as you keep the community motivated and looking in the right direction, like as a racing instructor or driver coach for a long time, when you get out of the corner, most people are all they're out of whack, right? And what they have to do is look ahead and look up, because right now everybody's like too busy, busy with what they're doing and stuff. But really, what they have to do is just look up, look ahead, look at somebody that's doing something else near and around you, and that's a good person to keep in touch with. Logan, can I embed one of your contracts and test it? Because I have some people that love breaking it, and that's called peer review. You know what I mean? So if Logan has a roadblock that he needs some peer review, cool. I have an artist test some tokens. George wants to test some voting structures. Love it. It would be wonderful. Anybody wants to run tests, I'm happy to, connect the right people. And on that, you guys can all give your final thoughts.
Yeah. Appreciate y'all for being here. All right, I'm going to kill this recording. Welcome to Driving Catalyst, and goodbye.